Hello, this is Alejandro Bratti, Shanei Born, and CJ Kuzler from Believe in Yourself, Believe in Your Business, and welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Singo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download both the Singo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Singo TV is also available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Roku, and all smart TVs. And today we are happy because we have two things to say. One is we have Robin, an amazing guest that I know that you are going to love. We already love him a lot. We have been discussing a lot of things about what he's doing. So thank you for being with us today, Robin. This is amazing. And the
My great
second one
pleasure.
is we are having a workshop tomorrow. It's a big impact and business growth workshop, and the idea is to help you if you have any business or you are planning to have a business and you want to really grow. Join us on that free workshop. Shanei, do you have any comments on that workshop?
Yeah, I think that if you are an entrepreneurial spirit and you want to make things rock this year in your business and just try out new avenues, new ways to market yourself, with all of the change management that's going on, you must be there. So all you need to do is just take out your camera on your phone and hover over that QR code that's on the screen, and it'll take you to businessbelieve.com, or you can just type in businessbelieve.com in your internet browser and it'll take you straight there. You can do the workshop and we'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome. CJ, do you have any comment about the workshop tomorrow? Because I believe it's going to be a lot of value for everybody.
Well, it's interesting that the QR code is square. Really, I'll just keep it short and succinct. Be there or be square. If you want to grow, we'll help you. So join us tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Robin, today we want to know, this show is about yourself, like believe in yourself, believe in your business, how you started to believe in yourself, how you created the business that you have. I know that you even won a couple of Grammy awards with all the things that you have done. So this is really amazing, Robin. Tell
Yeah.
us. I know that sometimes when we see like a person that has achieved so many things, we can be saying like, oh yeah, of course, because Robin is amazing and everybody like with his genius they can do that, but I can do that because of any reason. So one of the things that we do here is tell guys, the first thing is you need to know Robin who he was, and that is the first part that we want to share, like who you were when you didn't believe in yourself, when you started to be, I don't know, even it could be when you were a teenager, at that time that you are like you don't want to do anything in the world or you want to do everything. I don't know how was it, but tell us a little bit about that part.
For sure. Okay, so music is I'm passionate about. And I guess probably from the age of 10 on, I was really, I wouldn't say I had a vision about taking over the world or anything like that, but I knew that music is what I wanted to do. And at school and so on, I went through the thing of doing singing various choral parts. And someone gave me a ukulele. I'd learned a bit of the piano, and I thought I really want to learn the guitar. So in those days, I think if I look back, what was amazing between how I was then and how I am now is I was really, really, really introverted. I had a passion for music and the whole thing. But I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't talk to girls. Okay, maybe when you're 11 and 12, that doesn't work well anyway, unless you're very, very, very outgoing. But I definitely wasn't extrovert. I was very introverted. And my view of music was very introverted. It was a very personal view. I had started writing music and so on. Tell me if I go on a bit far. You can ask stuff as I'm talking. But anyway, I'll tell you the story to how that transformed. Obviously, I have had a long career in music, so there's quite a lot I could say. But I think what is incredibly important is having I had the realization when I was about 18 that I needed to make this my career. And I went through that, for me, that terrific barrier of understanding that in order to make anything of myself, I had to talk to people. Somehow I had to do it, somehow. And that was painful. It was a painful experience. I actually had done a couple of courses by then. As I say, I was 18 and I'd done a couple of courses on communication and things. So I had an idea of what the bones of it were, but I had no particular passion. Somehow I thought I could make my music happen without having to talk to people very much. And as we all know, everyone here, you actually have to go through that thing and get that confidence for yourself. And then the other part of it is starting. Then I went round with some tapes that I had, and I spoke to some important people. And the first person I spoke to was a big deal guy, a record producer, and he said, "I'm sorry, we're not recording anyone who isn't blonde and female," which was difficult for me. Because my hair was black and very long. And there was the other snag too. So anyway, what I discovered is that I really did have this passion for music, and that it was really, really important to keep going. And that, if there was any chance that I could make something happen, I dragged my guitar. Yeah, carry on.
For example, Robin, I know that you are talking about, and you were very quick saying like, I take some courses because you realized at 18 that you needed to understand and start to speak with people if you really want to succeed in this business. But tell us a little bit more of how was that process, like really how you start, because that is a belief, like you had a belief system like, okay, I am an introvert, I don't want to go outside the world, I don't want to talk to anybody. Suddenly like, okay, the career that I am choosing is exactly the opposite. I have to be outside talking with people all the time. So how was that
Yes,
process to be changing in your mind, and how much time take?
I think what was incredible at the age of 18, there were a couple of things that happened. I was actually working in a church at the time, the Church of Scientology, and they offered me to do a course overseas, and I went to England at the age of 18, and I did a series of courses which were about administration, but they covered the subject of communication, and communication. I really, that really made a big difference because the thing about it, I do not believe, having spent many years in my career and done a great number of things, it is not possible to succeed without getting your head around communication. You could sit in obviously I was a music guy, so I could sit in my bedroom and write songs, and everything was just great, and I really loved it. But the next question immediately came up, like, what? So what? So what do I do with this? So the subject of communication is a basic thing, and it has to do with such a thing as being willing. For a start, that was the first thing I learned, is that you have to be willing to communicate, and somehow that is somehow you have to do that. And I don't know, it's like a life lesson, isn't it? I think all of us have got to that point where there's something that you actually have to surmount, and you actually just have to. And I literally, from there, I thought, okay, am I willing to do this? And I thought about it, and I thought, I can do the songs for myself, but if I'm going to reach someone with any of this music, I've got to communicate. And the first thing, of course, in any music career certainly is you've got to believe in yourself enough to get someone else to believe in you, and say, right, let's give it a go. And I could tell you many different points where this happened with me. But the first thing I think that I did was I picked up my guitar. I got two friends who are pretty much school friends, and I just went to a restaurant. I said, listen, we're going to play you some music. You don't have to pay, but we'll give it a go. And I was absolutely scared, whatever, about doing this, but I thought, fine. And we sat there, and then there would be someone that I could reach who would smile and clap when we finished the song. Yeah, I actually can do this. It must be possible to do. And then I started to understand that I was me and I could be who I was and have a belief in what I was doing. And that was hard. It's a ladder. It's not a thing that happens overnight. You try one thing, you try another thing. And eventually I ended up doing an audition with a record producer who liked the music. I do think I was pretty good at certain things. I was pretty good at harmony. I got the idea that you could communicate a song and be genuine in what you're communicating. And they recorded us, and the song went up the hill. And I remember the first royalties I got. And now I was in South Africa. I'd been in South Africa as a child. And
Okay,
the
quick
first
quick
royalty.
question, because I want to focus on that area that you are saying, because I believe it's very important. You are talking about like presenting your show, doing that for the first time, but you did it even with fear. Like you were trembling, you were like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I will do it even with that fear that you have. And that is something that resonates a lot. For example, the three of us, Shanei and CJ, we present this workshop that we were talking before. And part of the thing that we do is help people to understand what is their genius part and understanding how to help them to communicate better. And even if the communication is being in a show like this one or talking in a different way, and we found, for example, with one of our customers that they were like having a problem with communicating, like, okay, I don't know how to communicate, I don't have an idea of what to say and how to say. The first thing that we say is like, okay, do it with fear, doesn't matter, but do it. Start to do it, and you don't have to go to a big audience. Do it with us right now, we want to hear.
Yeah.
And that is what I see in your story. What you are saying is, do it with fear, do it with anything, and suddenly you, of course, you need to do it 100 times, and then you are going to start to master that. The first one is going to be a mess. But tell us a little bit
You're
more
right.
about
that. You're absolutely right. I mean, you've outlined many things here. The thing that I learned is that you can take an aspect of whatever it is you need to deal with, and you can work with it. What I'd say, drill it. Even you can, which I've done quite often. Even today, my wife, who I love dearly, of course, if I have an idea, I'll try it out on her and practice it a bit before I go out and open my mouth. And there I will find some things. And in those early days, I did the same thing. I would even, you can work with someone else and sing to them, and your voice croaks and it goes nowhere, but it's only one person. And then you can get the idea that you're now doing the same thing to a room. But this is before you've actually gone through it. And you are in fear, but you learn that the fear is not the point. I mean, the fear, in a way, it's a point because you've got to surmount it. Otherwise, you won't go there. But the point is you want to communicate something. If you were to take a simple song that says, I love you, it's not going to mean anything if you sit there and go, I love you. So you're immediately, and if you want to take a girl out, you'd never get anywhere, obviously, if you did that. So, I love you. I mean, I love you. I mean, you can practice it. I love you. It's a simple idea, but if it doesn't communicate, it's never going to reach anyone. So you can go through it, and then you go through the fear. There are, for example, drills that you can do where your legs are knocking and you want to run off stage, and you're absolutely the worst. You're dropping your thing. I could tell you, I think the first concert I ever did, I had a guitar and the thing opened, and as it opened, I hit the guitar on something and it all went totally out of tune. And we're supposed to go whang. So what do you do with that? Well, you learn that you don't run off stage. You don't do anything. You actually say, I've got a slight problem here. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll sort this out. And ding, 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 kang, and start, But it's all communication. So I've learned all of those things. And when you start, as you said right at the beginning, the fear can be totally overwhelming. But I would encourage anyone and anyone at all to say the only way to go is forward and give it a go. I mean, you can, what's also quite useful, you can say to yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Okay, so they can throw rotten eggs at me. They can tell me I'm an idiot. They can tell me I'm useless. You imagine the worst that you can imagine. Could I handle that? Well, yeah, I could handle that. I'm going to be able to handle that. And lo and behold, very often when you do that, nothing like that actually happens. So those are sort of some of the things behind what you're saying, from my view.
No, and I agree 100% what you are saying. And when you are talking about communication, because I love exactly this topic that you are talking, because we are talking a lot about that in every workshop that we are doing. Is communication is key. The message that you have is key, and the way that you present is key. So tell us, how was that process to, okay, now it was the fear. Suddenly I start to, okay, I am not trembling when I am trying to deliver the message, even when it's with a song or when you are doing a presentation or anything. How was that? How is that process to start to be like, I love you too. I love you, like something like more.
Well, that's a very, very good question, because you do have to start, I do believe, understanding what communication is. It is a very simple idea because we're all doing it, we're talking certainly. But the point of communication is, first you've got yourself. You have to decide that you're going to do this thing. And then you've got to decide, well, what is it you're going to put across? What are you trying to say? What is your message? And then you've got to say, well, that's all great, but where's the message going to? Who's going to receive this message? I'm sure you've had similar things, and maybe we all have. You can walk into a room or an area where everyone's drunk and talking about something totally, and you're supposed to still reach them, and this is going to be a problem. Or you can walk into a room that is full of children, and you've got this you're going to go, I love you and I want to take you to bed, or something, and you suddenly realize this isn't quite the right thing for the audience in front of you. So again, you've got to, and then with all of that is the question of confronting what is actually there, so you can actually see your audience. It develops into a lot of different things, because in music, you want to sell a lot of records, for example, and your records are going to go all over the world, and you're perhaps communicating to people that you not right in front of you, and you've still got to get over that barrier, and that's a whole interesting thing. But in other words, who's going to receive this thing, and what is going to be the reception? How are you going to know that you're getting across? You're singing this lovely, and you start getting it, and you look at the audience and you see these girls and these guys, and the couples sitting together holding hands, and you're starting to get an idea of who you're saying, I love you too. And yes, someone bursts into tears. Wow, that's an incredible impact you just had with what you were singing. Or they smile or something. So your receipt, the receipt point of the communication. So you've got that whole process. You have to get over the fear, over the knocking knees. You've got to then impinge. There's a factor of distance. How far do you want to communicate? If you're just singing to the front row, as you were talking about a presentation, it's a whole nother thing if you're now talking to a whole lot of people. And you maybe are just talking to the front row, and all the other rows are going to sleep. So you've got to now include all those people in what you're doing. So, but talking about the process, this, what I'm saying now, and for all of us, is something that I've learned step by step. And the only way to do anything in life, I believe, is to try it out or do it. And then you know, and be willing for it to fail, or for you know, to get shouted out or whatever. Be willing for that to happen. And lo and behold, then you start to encompass the whole subject of communication.
I don't want to monopolize this conversation. I know that CJ and Shanei are going to enter here. I just have one more question, because I believe that there is a lot of, okay, now I overcome the fear to go outside, but maybe I start to have the fear of the haters, the people that is going to hate what I am saying, even if I say it well or wrong. It doesn't matter, but they are going to say like, oh, it was really bad, you have a very bad accent or whatever that they start to say. You are singing very bad or whatever. How you work in yourself to avoid listening to those voices, and how much did you listen about those voices when you had that process?
That's a very, very good question. I mean, that is such an interesting thing. I mean, now, for me, I can have a total command of any audience. And if someone was giving me a hard time, it doesn't really happen. I can be very blunt about things if I feel I needed to, you know. I mean, I would say, excuse me, so you're being very rude. I'd really appreciate if you shut up, or something like that.
Yeah, but that is right now that you is like you don't care. But what happened at the beginning when you were
No,
like,
no, that's very true. I found, I don't know, you know, I'm maybe I was very fortunate. I never had tremendous difficulty with that. My main difficulty was in reaching people. My indifference, I suppose, is the thing that I found most difficult. Say if you're playing in a restaurant, people are talking amongst themselves, and they're eating their food. And from a musical point of view, it's pretty horrible, the fact that they don't even listen to you and they couldn't care. And I don't know. Then I would go through the thing of saying, "Hey," I would actually do that. Even earlier times, I'd say, "Hey, excuse me, you know, I'm singing here. I'd really appreciate if you listen," or something like that.
no,
And
but
that generally works.
that is really cool, because you are saying, if you are thinking that there is a million of haters outside and that's why you have the fear, what you are telling me is like, in I don't know how many years you have been doing this, 50 years, 30, 40 years, you didn't have any hater, like just a couple of them. So it's like that fear doesn't really exist, and it's something like you are just inventing in your head,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, I think that's a very good point you just made. Is it, you could ask and say, you know, we're talking about confidence and things like that. Would it be true to say that that you yourself can, almost in a way create a problem if you have your attention on
The wrong thing.
you're thinking, well, I've got all these pimples on my face. I wonder if anyone will notice. You know, if you're saying if you're very young or whatever, would that actually draw attention to your face? And I do believe it would. I mean, that's something that you need to have your own attitude straight on and decide that you're not going to introvert, perhaps, on the things that you would perhaps, you know, fear other people would pick up on. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, awesome. Shanei, go.
Yeah. So, Robin, how did you go from knees clinching to one another to winning 2 Grammys? I mean, that's amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that's quite a long journey between those 2 points.
Yeah.
So when you ask me that, are you interested in how the Grammys thing worked, or a quick sketch of? I'll give you a quick sketch, and then you can tell me. So from these points that I've mentioned to you, and there were some really knee-jerking moments. I mean, I remember when I first became really professional, and I had to audition for a place in a band, and I honestly didn't really know what I was doing. I was going now to a totally professional level. The band was very high profile. It looked like they needed someone very, very skillful to do what had to be done. They needed a bass player. I was playing guitar, but I could play bass. So that was a point where I became a professional musician, and I succeeded in that audition by luck and a lot of guts. As it so happened, I was doing this audition, and I'm singing this song, and these people are looking at me, and that's a whole nother thing. This isn't just an audience. This is people who are quite critical of whatever you're doing, And a friend of mine walked in, and I happened to be singing a song that I'd written, and he knew the song, and he had a lovely voice. And he walked in, and he started just singing it with me, which was fantastic. It just blew them away. Anyway, that was that moment, and then I went through quite a few years as a professional musician. But what I was finding frustrating was they were all doing covers. I wanted to do a lot of original music, and I thought, no, I must get into TV and film. And I had a long story, which also took some guts to actually get to start writing music for TV series, which I did in South Africa. I probably wrote the music for about 20 TV series. And I can thank my wife's father, who was the golfing partner of a TV director and happened to mention his name to me. And eventually I got my first gig, if you like that. So that went all very well. But what was amazing is in that whole set of TV series that I wrote the music for, and that was a lot of music. When you say 20 TV series, you're talking, 12 episodes or more, maybe an hour or 40 minutes of music for each one. So there's a lot. But what was really interesting is the person that I was working with was doing, you could say, black TV series. They were set in Soweto. They were set in Zululand. They were set in all sorts of different places, which meant that I had to get my head around African music. I've been trained in Western music. And there's many a story there, but I loved that. And I became very expert at it. And at some point, a friend of a friend phoned me out of the blue and said, could you produce something called the Soweto Gospel Choir? By then, I'd produced quite a lot of international music and various odd things that have been very successful. And it was really, I got a reputation for being very good at recording international standard African music. And I literally, so that went, if that's giving you the short story, and I went in and met these guys, and they employed me to actually produce the albums. And I could see, funnily enough, go back to communication. All the lessons I learned in communication were so invaluable, because Soweto Gospel Choir had been a choir of about 30 guys, had been auditioned and put together. They'd never been in a studio before. They were very, very talented, but a recording studio is a very, can put you in a lot of fear, exactly what you're saying. And these guys were used to singing outside to people, to big audiences, and not sitting worrying about equipment and microphones in this gray studio and people in the control room all looking critically at them while they're singing. So what I did was I used these communication drills with them. And honestly, I knew this more or less from what I'd done. Their music came to life. It was amazingly powerful. Doing the drills, making sure that they were comfortable, that they had the idea of communicating to the world what they were doing. There were a couple of factors, like an engineer, a recording engineer who wants the most perfect sound will say, well, we'll record all the basses first, for example. That's part of the choir. But an African choir never works like that. Or we'll have all the singers on separately. And I insisted that not be done. So we recorded the whole choir as they are in the studio, and that took some hard work and incredible skill on the part of the choir, because they had to be perfect pretty much, but they could communicate the way that they should communicate. And I had no idea this was going to go far. This was a choir put together for a tour in Australia. I kind of thought, well, Soweto Gospel Choir, I mean, what's going to happen with that? I have no idea. But the rest is history. They immediately went to standing ovation tour through Australia, then England, then America, and the albums which I'd produced were then released internationally. And one day we get this phone call: your album has been nominated for a Grammy. And we all looked at each other. How did that happen?
That is amazing. I'm getting
it was a goosebump story, because there are these guys from the streets of Soweto. And long story short, had been picked up by a record company in America who was very good and entered the whole thing in the Grammys. We didn't particularly even know what the Grammys meant, or what that was about, but we thought it was, as they say in South Africa, a jaw. In other words, lots of fun. And we found ourselves on the red carpet. And even then, we didn't think we were going to win. We didn't think we were going to win. And literally, it was one of those moments. There we are in the Grammys in LA. And they say, and the winner is Soweto Gospel Choir. And we all look at each other, because no one had prepared anything. We didn't think. And then we all ended up on stage. And it was really, that was a whole another amazing story with, and then I got to understand Hollywood a lot better. And anyway, then we won another Grammy. So that's kind of like how the story went. That's a short version.
Wow, that is amazing, Robin. And how did you guide everyone from the Sowetan choir through this whole thing? Did you use your communication skills through, winning the Grammys and dealing with all that overwhelm? Because that can be quite overwhelming and also fearful.
Yeah. Well, my role with the Soweto Gospel Choir was producing the records, so that's what I used that for. I wasn't really so much in on their performances and so on, although here and there I did help with a few things. I don't know if it's fortunate or not, but one thing that African singers and so on have no problem with is communication. They don't have that problem. You get it more in the West than you do in African culture. I never saw nervousness with them. They the moment they got out on stage, they just reveled in it. And that seemed to be part of the ethos there. But what was interesting is that the person running the choir, wow, there were quite a lot of problems. The choir toured America. There are 3 choirs today. One choir does America, one choir does Europe, and one choir does the Far East. And the management of those choirs, they usually do one night stands, if you like. They'll do. And so the tours are incredibly busy. It's one night here, and it's 30 people moving from one town to the next town to the next town to the next. In America, particularly tricky. And like guys would get ill, or they would say, "Where's our food?" They wanted African food, and they're in the middle of America. And so I worked a lot with the lady who was. I worked with the lady who was running that, and the other people running that, and helped where I could to do that together. But I have to say that the success story from there was their success story.
That is amazing. Oh, wow. So amazing. Sorry, CJ, I have asked so many questions. I haven't even given you a chance.
No, that's fine. It's really interesting, Robin, hearing your story, and it's so incredible. As I think of my own, learning communication, really, I got into business and learned copywriting and public speaking and the importance of communication from the stage to the page. Went through various programs for that, but I never fully pursued my passion for music. Been a worship leader, wrote a bunch of worship songs, led community in that. But it was only until recently that I had the opportunity to go through H.E.R leadership program, and it pulled out of me, what is your greatest desire? I thought it was business, but I want to do business anyways. And I found buried beneath this desire to create music, and that in tandem with finding the love of my life, and put the two together and create 4 songs. They ended up being love songs. And so I can totally relate to the shaky knees and telling her, how do I tell her that I love her? How do I tell her that I want to be with her? And then, well, how do I perform this song for her? To the end analysis now is we've got 4 songs together on SoundCloud on an EP named after her. I called it Naomi. And it's still in process. We still get to work on the vocals before we put it to Spotify and that kind of thing. So I'm in the midst of that early steps of the ladder. So perhaps someone like me, if there's any kind of advice that you would say, I mean, we're here saying, believe in yourself, believe in your business. But when it comes to the business of your dreams, being music or whatever else it may be, sometimes it's easy to kind of hide in the dark and hide in the shadows. And I'm so glad I didn't, because like I say, I met the love of my life. We're together now. And I'm so grateful. And we get to sing these songs together. But what would you say to someone who perhaps hasn't yet taken those steps, to pursue their dream, to pursue whether it's business or whatever it is, whether it's music? What would you say from your standpoint, having gone through the process of pursuing the dream, going through the performances, the auditions? What's that thing? What's the magic sauce that you would say, hey, this is what you need to do? Like we say to business people, believe in yourself, believe in your business, and we coach people that way. What about the hiddenness of sometimes the dreams that are buried beneath? Is there anything that you would say to that?
Yes, I think you touched on a couple of very interesting and important things. One thing that I didn't pursue or didn't mention now much further was that I did an executive administrative course when I was 18 at the same time. And I think what you're saying on the business side of things absolutely is very important. What I mean by this is I think that was a course that I did in England, and it was on material written by a guy called L. Ron Hubbard. And the material covered a wide range of what it takes to run a business. Now, the idea of that was business, not music. But I found myself afterwards utilizing that information all the time, because if you're going to actually pursue a dream and you're going to achieve it, I do believe you need to figure out the business end of it, if you like, without being I talk, it's funny because you talk to business guys on the music thing, and they will look down on a guy wearing an earring or shabby jeans or whatever, but he might be a very rich wealthy punk rock and roller. You don't know who he is quite. On the other hand, music guys will talk bitterly about suits. They can't handle suits and blah, blah, blah. And in the earlier days, when I told you about the first recording contract I got, I was like many, many musicians. I didn't bother to read the print at all. I just signed the contract. I was just only too happy to actually be able to do that. And only later did I discover that the whole thing goes together. Why is that? Because there are many, many stories of guys who basically ended up committing suicide, music guys, because they didn't, if you like, read the small print, or they ran into someone who is really a shark and they thought everyone was fine. And while I'm not cynical, I'm not at all cynical about the music business in that way, but I am aware that you have to have your eyes open. So I would say, to answer what you're saying, that anyone needs to be very open to really seeing what is going on around them. Absolutely keeping that dream. What you mentioned about SoundCloud and what you're doing, I love it. Well done. Fantastic. I remember that I don't know if the statistics still exist, but Forbes magazine did many years ago an analysis of the entertainment business. That means books, films, music, whatever. And they came up with, out of every 10 projects that reach the marketplace, and that already is a small percentage compared to everything that is done. Out of every 10 that actually reaches the marketplace, 1 makes money, 1 breaks even, and 8 lose money.
Wow.
So whether that's exactly right, I don't know. But you and I know you'll meet many people writing songs and doing various things. It doesn't get anywhere. So you have to actually, I do believe, be the master of your destiny. And being the master of your destiny means absolutely having the dream, holding on to the dream, pushing through to the dream, being very persistent, and seeing what's around you and learning what you need to learn. If you guys in the music business I'm talking about in particular, they think, may well think that they need an agent, or they need a music guy, or they need a record company. And yes, certainly you do need these things. But I remember in England when my career was starting to go very well, I talked to a top music guy and I said, do I need to get an agent? And he said to me, a lot of people I would say you do need to get an agent, but you don't need to get an agent. So I do feel that if you want to be the master of your own destiny, you have to learn all these things. It's not just the communication. It's like how you're going to promote a project that you've got, how you're going to talk to people, how you're going to handle that horrible moment where it doesn't work out, and really understand people. I'm rambling on a little there, but I hope that makes sense.
That's wonderful, Robin. Thank you so much for your wisdom. It's very insightful. Absolutely.
And quick question, Robin, when I know that sometimes when you reach something, this achievement that you had, like getting the Grammy, it's an amazing thing, but at the same time can be an issue because the next thing that you start to do is like, okay, I am going to get that Grammy again, or what is going to happen? How you start to continue living your life without thinking like, okay, my great success happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I am just living because of that and not thinking about the new things that you are going through.
That is an extremely perceptive question and a very, very important one. You know, when I won the Grammy, I had no particular idea what it was. And then when I won it, I was in America and I had a friend of mine who was very good. And someone came up to me and said, so fantastic, you've won a Grammy and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, it's no big deal, you know. And I had that viewpoint that it wasn't really, it wasn't really such a big deal, if you like. And that my friend said to me, don't ever do that. He said, if someone comes up to you and thinks it's fantastic, then it's fantastic for them. So it is a big deal, and you should definitely put it across that way. So that was my first thing, because then I found that the whole Grammy, I mean, I came back to South Africa and someone organized a limousine for me and we did la, la, la. And suddenly it was a whole nother level of thing. But what I discovered out of that is that I actually had a responsibility now. And it took me a little while to figure that out, that it wasn't that I'd won a Grammy. That was great. That was great. But now people were looking up to me, asking me for my advice. I was something of a role model for some people. So now what is that about? So then I changed a lot of what I was doing. I thought, I can help people. I can actually. If they feel, if someone wants to ask me, how do you win the Grammy? Then, and someone who really, wants to get into that, then it's my responsibility to do something about it. But I make it very clearly, because I've done several workshops, how you win a Grammy, because I was asked to. And the very first point I make, which is very, very important on what you said, is that the Grammy is just a symbol. It's just, obviously it's an award and an acknowledgement, but it's not a product. It's not the album that I made. It's not anything like that. It is a very important acknowledgement of skill, if you like, or whatever, from your peers. And it is a fantastic thing. But don't head for going to make a Grammy. It's like you make a good film and you'll win an Oscar. Make good music and maybe you'll win a Grammy. If you don't, fine, it doesn't really matter. You make the music. So I have since winning Grammys, I haven't gone for winning Grammys. I've just done what I do, and I do a lot of stuff. I took this thing on Forbes magazine to heart. I thought, okay, so you've got to produce at least 10 albums if one of them is going to make money. So why don't I make 20? Why don't I make 30? So I've made a heck of a lot. And I don't worry too much about whether it's going to work or not. Obviously, I'm thinking, yeah, I think this might work. I'm worrying, not worrying is the word, I'm passionate about it being meaningful for me and communicating what I'd like to communicate. And if I can help other people on the route, which happens with African music because I can do that, well and good.
Well, Robin, I would love to continue talking. It's incredible, but we already have the, the hour done. It was amazing. Do you have something that you want to, if people want to reach with you, work with you, do something, do you want to give some details of that?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm wide open to anyone contacting me if they've got questions, want help, or whatever. My website's under my own name, Robin at robinhogarth.com. I have for some years now done a lot of workshops like you guys have done. I didn't do them particularly for any reason except that I was asked to. So I've paralleled various art projects, done workshops with kids, perhaps sometimes in disadvantaged areas, in townships, those sort of areas there. All the kids, almost without exception, love to get into music. They don't have a lot of opportunity. So if anyone wants help from me with you guys, also with what you're doing, if I can help, as you rightfully say, music crosses so many barriers.
Boundaries,
It's
yeah.
totally the most amazing thing. I mean, it's lovely. In Soweto, I can go to any place and guys will sing, and they won't be of the frame of mind of poverty and problems and crime. They won't be thinking about that. They'll be thinking about something positive. So whatever I can do to help, please, anyone's very welcome to get hold of me.
Okay. Thank you, Robin. Today was amazing. Thank you for everything that you share with us, your wisdom. I hope that we can have you back very soon because this was like, okay, it seems like there is missing like another hour or something like that. So
Yeah.
uh, let's plan for a future. If you have some time to continue having this discussion, thank you very much again for this. Everybody, the reason you have this photo here, it's you can look for the workshop that we're going to have tomorrow, so you can join there. It's business workshop, and we are ready to help you. Businessbelieve.com. That is another one. So thank you for connecting with us. So this show can be also heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out SpanglishWorld.ca for all the news and programming in Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Robin. Thank you, friends.